A very good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to the session. When we see monsoon clouds looming over the sky and the scorching heat subsiding slowly, we all know that rainy season is here. And rainy season is supposed to be the best season for the plant growth. So, keeping this in mind, we have organized this session. So, plants not only benefit us in several ways, like they perform several ecological functions, they attract several insects, including butterflies and birds, etc. Right? So, and of course, add greenery to our life. So, this session is all about bringing back butterflies. So, now, without any further delay, I would now request Dr. Babita to kindly welcome our esteemed speaker. Babita ma'am, over to you. Um, Babita ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, ma'am. So, on behalf of Manav Rachna University and Center for Peace and Sustainability, a very warm and hearty welcome to Mr. Suhail Madan and all our participants here today. So, such an honor to have you, sir, among us today. Manav Rachna University, sir, has been established as MRCE, and it enjoyed the glory of being affiliated by NBA also. It was a NAC A accredited engineering college till we graduated to a state private university. And today we span we are still in an infancy as a university because we just completed our 5 years, and these 5 years we have graduated from a university. We have added faculty of law, faculty of management, faculty of education, and our center of excellence, which is a Daikin Center of Excellence. We also have our innovation and incubation centers, and our youngest and a very active baby, which is Center for Peace and Sustainability. We inaugurated our Center for Peace and Sustainability on 4th of October 2019, when we were marking 150th birth anniversary of Father of our Nation. After that, a lot of activity has been conducted under that. Our advisory, we are lucky to be, joined us by Dr. Karan Singh, and we are also joined by Dr. Vishesh, who is the Bharat Sokaga Kai chairperson for India. Our Chief Justice Lahoti, who has been the 35th Chief Justice of India. Dr. Meenakshi Gopinath, ma'am, has been the principal for Lady Shri Ram College in Delhi. Our advisory, who has been patting our back and guiding us on and off, is these people whom we look up to. In these webinar series, sir, we have been again guided by from Sister Shivani to Dr. Karan Singh, and there are a lot of sessions being there. And now we are bestowed by your presence here. So for our participants, I would just like to have a brief profile of our speaker for the day. So Mr. Suhail Madan is a project manager with Bombay Natural and History Society, a society which is known for its more than a century old tradition, where they have been conducting a lot of conservation projects. Sir heads the Conservation of Education Center at Asola Bhati Wildlife Sanctuary, our neighbor, and we again extend a very sincere gratitude to Meena Kapahi ma'am also, who have taken a lot of efforts in connecting us to Asola Bhati and our students on there. Our speaker for the day, he completed his engineering from Pune University and San Jose State University, California. In his capacity as a conservation educator, CAC Delhi, he is actively involved in numerous initiatives by the Delhi government to create and conserve green zones in the city. He has been one of the key advocates in creating awareness and planting of native trees in the city. Some of his significant contributions to Delhi have been building the Butterfly Park at Asola Bhati Wildlife Sanctuary with support of Department of Forest and Wildlife, Delhi, and running education programs with an emphasis on hands-on field training with strong conservation ethics. So today, sir, we are obliged to have you among us, and our sincere thanks to Asota Bhatti and Bombay Natural History Society. So we welcome you among us, sir. Thank you for your being present.
Thank you, ma'am, for such a warm welcome and such a nice introduction. Thank you, Meena, ma'am, for giving us the opportunity to present. And as you said, this is the right time to actually start looking at what we want to plant because monsoon is here. And with this webinar, we are trying to disseminate information on how butterflies can be brought back to our homes, our balconies, our gardens, our backyards, our park colonies. And it's a very easy thing to do. Butterflies are people's favorite insects. It's a window to the insect world. So today in our presentation, we are going to cover a few basics on butterflies. We don't know. I've kept a level of biology very simple because I didn't know what kind of audience I have. So we're going to dwell a little bit into the life cycle of the butterfly, what it feeds on, and what are the predators of butterflies in the natural world. Plus, I'm going to talk about what are the essential elements of building a butterfly garden, be it in your balcony or be it in a very big plot. And I'm going to, in the end, go over a few of the common butterflies that we see and show you the associated plant with it. So even if uh, you don't delve into too much of the biology of the butterfly, as soon as the webinar stops, you can start making your own butterfly garden just by knowing what plants to plant. And most of them are very common plants. We will get into that. So let me begin by sharing my screen. Can you, is the screen visible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
All right, so bringing butterflies home, like I said, is just a simple way, not for butterfly conservation or nature education, but I call it a stealth program to uh, relieve stress for our urban lives. So it's not you're not looking at it from conservation point of view, though there is a lot of conservation benefits of what we can do with our home gardens. But we I want to focus on how uh, easy, how joyful, and a good experience you can have by just starting to notice such beautiful insects around us. So, without wasting any more time, let me start out with what are butterflies. Butterflies are flying insects. So, we know insects have 6 legs. The distinguishing character of a butterfly or a moth from every other insect in the world is the scales it has on its wings. So as you can see here on the right side, there's a butterfly with open wings, and if you take a close up of it, you can see these minute scales. This is what gives the butterfly wings its colors. The light refracted from this scale makes up the colors that we see. So if anybody asks you what is a butterfly and how you can distinguish it from any other insect, you tell them that it's the scales of a butterfly's wings. So if you look at a dragonfly or a mosquito or a housefly, they don't have such colorful wings because of absence of scales on them. If we dwell deeper into the body parts of a butterfly, there are 3 important body parts to know of. One is the head, second is the thorax, and third is the abdomen. You can see the wings here. The wings are divided into forewing and hind wing, and the scales are supported by veins inside the wings. So the black portion in the wings is the veins which are attaching to the different parts of the wing. Uh, as far as senses of a butterfly goes, most of its world is perceived through chemicals as well as smell, and they use hair on their body, parts of their legs, and their antennas to sense smell as well as the chemical pheromones that are spread. For them to sense why do they need to see other butterflies? One, they need to recognize their own same species. Second, they need to find a female or a mate. And thirdly, they use their senses to get away from predators. So this is the simple morphology of a butterfly. The most important thing that we have to remember and keep in mind when we are trying to build a habitat for butterflies is the life cycle. If we do not understand what a life cycle of a butterfly is, we will not be able to make a successful habitat. Usually people think that butterflies need a lot of colorful flowers in a habitat to be there, but that is not true. That comes from the fact that we see a lot of butterflies on nectaring flowers. So we feel that this is what the butterfly is looking for. But today I will talk about how that is a misconceived notion and what the butterfly is actually looking for in a habitat. So the story starts from the life cycle of a butterfly. You can see here, this is a what we commonly call the lime butterfly, and you can see this is a singular egg. A female lime butterfly will lay singular eggs on host plants. Host plants for lime butterfly are kadipatta and nimbu. So very common host plants found in all gardens, can be in your garden too. And this is what a lime butterfly is going to use to lay its eggs on. Why is it laying its eggs on a specific plant? Because out of the egg, there will come a very small caterpillar. And this caterpillar in the beginning is so small that it's trying to hide by mimicking bird poop. It has no defense. The only purpose a young larva or a caterpillar has is to eat a lot of leaves, fresh leaves from the host plant. So this young caterpillar is going to eat the leaves of the kadipatta plant and become bigger. And the only purpose, let me underline this again, the only purpose of a caterpillar in its whole life is to keep on eating. So if it keeps on eating, it will have to grow in size. And that growing in size is done by changing the outer cover that it has and getting a new one. So you can see the young larva is brown color, but the adult larva is green color. And there are 4 to 5 stages, which we call instars, between the young larva and the adult larva. Once that is done, once the larva has eaten as much as it wants, it will find a spot where it can hide from predators and go into a process we call pupation. In pupation, it will use a thread to give itself support and will turn into a chrysalis. This is what chrysalis is, a pupal stage for a butterfly, and it will stay in this stage uh, for a few days or for a few weeks, and it will start forming this color when it's time to start getting dark or translucent actually, when it's time to get out of the chrysalis, and it will, when it's time, it will open up the casing of the chrysalis and come out as an adult butterfly. Okay, this is about the life cycle of a butterfly. But let me tell you, this is called a complete metamorphosis and has four life stages, as I just discussed: egg, caterpillar, chrysalis, and an adult. So this is the basic biology of a butterfly and what sort of life stages does it have. And this is what is going to make our butterfly habitat. So a butterfly habitat needs to have the required host plants, which in this case is nimbu or kari patta. It needs to have hiding spaces for the caterpillar as well as the chrysalis, and it needs to have open spaces so that butterflies, female and male butterflies, can find each other and keep their progeny going. Let me show you a video, a very small video of a caterpillar coming out. Just, it has just come out of its egg, and see what it's doing. So a very small caterpillar has just come out of the egg, and the first thing it does is it starts eating the egg. It, why would it eat the egg? Very simple, because it wants to hide any evidence of it being there. This is the eating stage of the butterfly. This is when the caterpillar is going to start eating, go through lot of leaves, change its size, grow bigger, get all the energy required to become a butterfly. But once it becomes a butterfly, how does that happen? This is a video of what we call eclose. This is a butterfly, adult butterfly, coming out of a chrysalis. We must understand that the adult butterfly is only and only looking for a mate to start the process of reproduction and lay its eggs on a host plant. It is not interested in food. It has no other purpose in its adult life than to find a mate and reproduce. So when we see a lot of butterflies around flowers, they are not there because of the flowers. They are there because they want to look for mates. So this is something very important to understand. And let me start this. Sorry, let me start this video. So as you can see that the uh, adult butterfly tore up the chrysalis and came out. Now it's all wet and gooey. It needs to pump its wings with butterfly blood and get the shape that it forms. After this, the butterfly will never grow in size. So a butterfly comes out of a chrysalis in a particular size and never changes size after that, a butterfly does not grow in its adult stage. It's all gooey. It ate a lot in the caterpillar stage, took all that energy, stored it in the chrysalis stage, rearranged the whole thing to form a butterfly. And when the butterfly is formed, it breaks the chrysalis, comes out, looks for a mate. The process keeps on going. And this process can go on from, can be a life cycle can be a month long or 6 months long or even for a few years, depending on the species. In insects, there is a huge variety, and that leads to a lot of exceptions. You cannot say which is the biggest butterfly, which is the smallest butterfly, how long does a butterfly live. These are all very, very varied answers to all. Okay, so how does a butterfly, adult butterfly, feed? When we are making a butterfly habitat, it's essential that we are looking for adult butterflies. So we must understand how a butterfly feeds. If you see on your left side, there is a picture. This is a cruiser butterfly. The picture.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your voice is like very low. So may I request you to use a earphone or something?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think that might help.
So all this while, I wasn't audible.
Yes, yes, sir. You were audible, but then we really have to focus.
Okay, okay. Sorry about
Thank you,
that.
sir. No, no, sir. I mean,
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, your voice is now you're audible. Yeah, yes.
Okay. Can I continue? Everything all right?
Please, sir, everything is all right. You're louder
Oh,
now. Yeah.
thank you, thank you. So as I was saying, with this picture on your left side, this is a cruiser butterfly with a rolled up proboscis. This is how a butterfly feeds. This is the feeding part of a butterfly, like a elephant's trunk. It's all rolled up when it's not using it. When it's using it for nectar or other things that it requires, it unrolls the proboscis and dips it in the material that it needs to suck. So this is a sucking mechanism. So imagine if you had a thick milkshake with a straw, it does not pull very nicely. So this is also something to remember. Butterflies will not go for any nectar which is high in viscosity. So a thick nectar will not be suitable for a butterfly's proboscis. So that is also something to remember for butterflies and how they feed. This is the proboscis rolled up when the butterfly is not using it. It unrolls it to use it as a sucking mechanism. Butterflies cannot bite. Butterflies cannot be harmful in any way or sense. There are places in the world where caterpillars are eaten. So butterflies are very, very important, not just for humans, but who are eating caterpillars, but also it's a big source of food for a lot of other beings like lizards, birds, and etc. So one thing to know how butterfly feeds, and second thing to know
what they feed upon. This is the most common thing that you see, that the butterfly is feeding on a flower and pulling out nectar from this flower. The nectar in a flower is like an energy drink. It does not hold any essential nutrients. It is just a calorie rich drink, like soda that we drink, a soft drink that we drink. And it is only giving the butterfly enough energy to fly around to look for its mate. And in that search, when it gets tired, it goes to the flower again and gets its sip energy in requirements. The other thing that the butterfly you will see feeding upon is wet rocks. So wet rocks or have dissolved micronutrients like sodium, potassium, magnesium, which the butterfly needs, like we do, in very small quantities, which they pick up from wet uh, stone. The other thing that you will see butterflies on are rotten fruits. Fermented and rotten fruits is a favorite for some butterflies like common evening brown to visit and get their fill of nectar. This is a human hand, and butterflies also, because of the sodium in our sweat, love to sit on human beings. So a sweaty human being is a very good target for a butterfly to sit on and get the sodium off the sweat. The next that you see is a bird poop, and butterflies love bird poop. The kind of minerals bird poops have and the wetness presents itself to a butterfly in a very good way. And lots of butterflies would even sit on dry bird poop and use their body fluids to make it wet and suck it at the same time. The other thing that the butterfly can be seen on is a wet mud patch. Any patch of soil, any damp patch of soil or mud near a river is a classic place for a mud patch where a lot of butterflies will communally gather and try and get the nutrients from the soil. These nutrients are mostly used by the males, and in these congregations, you will mostly see males. The reason behind this is the males take these nutrients and give it as a nuptial gift, a gift to the female at the time of mating, which the female is eventually going to use to make the casing of the egg. So the strength of the egg depends on how many, how much nutrient that the male can provide, and the male gets these nutrients of these different substances you see around here, apart from nectar. Like I was discussing, the biggest role of butterflies in the ecosystem is their the fact that they are food source for a lot of other beings. Butterflies are very important ecological indicators. They tell us about the health of the environment. They are very good pollinators. They help in the pollination of our food crops. They're also very good to look at. But the most important role of butterflies in the natural ecosystem is that they are a food source for a lot of beings, lot of living beings like spiders, wasps, uh, birds, reptiles. A lot of living beings eat butterflies, not just in their adult stage, but in all stages that they can grab it. So apart from the egg, a caterpillar, a chrysalis, an adult, everything will be eaten. They mostly have no defense against these predators, so they make for a very good meal. Same as for moths. So as you can see, there are different life stages of a butterfly, which are predated upon by different animals shown here. Like I said, caterpillars are also predated. This is a very interesting video I would like to share with you, where we see a fly laying its eggs on a caterpillar. The caterpillar can see this, but has no defense. It just tries to, the video will show what it tries to do, but it has practically no defense. The fly is going to lay its eggs on the body of the caterpillar. The larva is going to live inside the living caterpillar for as long as it can keep the caterpillar alive. And eventually, when the larva becomes too big, it will eat the essential parts of a caterpillar and spring out of the body and become an adult. So even a small fly uses caterpillar bodies to lay its eggs on, and there are a lot of parasitoids and parasites that affect butterflies in all stages of their life. So let me show you this video. Is the video, can everybody see the video?
Yes, sir. It was visible.
So it laid its eggs on the caterpillar's body. The caterpillar senses it, but can't do anything. The only thing the caterpillar can do in this situation is try to swat away the fly or try to run away, which the caterpillar will miserably fail with. It's very tough for the caterpillar to save itself. So if there are 100 eggs laid in by the adult butterfly, only 5 of them make it to adulthood, and that's how nature keeps balance. If all of them would become adult butterflies, all 100 eggs would become adult butterflies, then they would quickly deplete all the plant resources that they depend on, and it will lead to their own destruction. So this is what we call biocontrol. The population of butterflies is kept in check by uh, own systems of the garden. And you also have to, when you're making habitats for butterflies, you also have to imagine that your habitat, your garden, your balcony should also have biological control instead of chemical control that most people prefer of putting insecticides and pesticides. We should avoid using any of that because that will kill the insect population. So before we go any further, ma'am, is there an option of can the students put in answers in the chat?
They can, but I would advise we can skip this.
Skip the quiz?
Yes.
Okay, as you say. So we had to skip this quiz. So let's move on to what kind of plants are required for a butterfly habitat. Like I said, 3 elements are very, very important. First is the host plant. That is the plant on which the butterfly is going to lay its eggs on. So that is the most important plant you need. And most butterfly species have specific host plants, which they will lay their egg on and no other. So a lime butterfly as easily lays its eggs on lime tree, lime plant. And castor butterfly will lay its egg on castor plant. So mostly these are very straightforward relationships. This is the most important plant you need to have in your butterfly habitat. As much diversity of host plants you have, that will directly uh, make your butterfly habitat high in butterfly diversity also. So diversity of host plants is directly proportional to the diversity of butterfly species you see in your garden. The second type of plant that you need are plants which are make for good hiding spots. So the best way to do this is to leave a patch of your garden wild to grow as is, and that wild patch will be used for butterflies for hiding, roosting, pupation, getting away from predators. So this is also a very, very important part of your butterfly habitat. And the third part that you have to remember is flowers, which is the third important part. Always remember, flowers are not the most important part. Nectar is used by only some butterflies and only in some cases. So for their energy requirements, you need to give them flowers. Perennial flowers work the best because they are the least work. So three types of plants: host plant, wild plant for your wild patch, hiding for butterfly, the need for a butterfly to hide, and third is the nectar plant, that is your flowering plant. So let me start out with one of the most common butterflies you will see around in Delhi, which does not look like a butterfly. On first glance, it will look like a moth, but this is from a family of butterflies, which is called skippers or Hesperidae. And Hesperidae are somewhat between butterflies and moths. In taxonomy, if you want to understand, they lie somewhere between moths and butterflies. So they share some features with moths also. Uh, like you can see, the resting position of this butterfly is like a moth. It keeps its wings closed and the eyes are humongously big as compared to other butterflies. So this common banded owl is going to uh, lay its eggs on Karanj plant, which is Pongamia pinnata or Militia pinnata now. Uh, this is a very common plant in the whole of Delhi. Lots of government departments like planting this tree. This has these white flowers, very fragrant, and it's a host plant for this butterfly. The next is from the same family, Hesperidae. Again, a brownish butterfly, looks like a moth, very big eyes, and the sitting posture is unlike other butterflies. So here you can see the egg of an egg palm bob. This is very, very, very small, about 1 to 2 mm. This is a cropped photograph, and this caterpillar is going to come out of this small egg and use the leaf of cane palm or pygmy date palm, sorry, cane palm or pygmy date palm to hide. It will cut the leaf and tie the leaf in a way that it hides inside and keeps eating the leaf. Very, very common butterfly to be seen because of the extensive use of its host plant. Pygmy date palm and cane palm can be found in all nurseries, in all parks, and a very good host plant for Indian palm bob. Like the name says, palm bob, host plant is palm. Then is the most common butterfly you will see around your balconies or your home gardens. Without even trying to make a butterfly habitat, this will be in most gardens in Delhi because most of us like growing curry patta or sweet neem. Curry leaf is what the common Mormon butterfly will use to lay its eggs on, and this is what the caterpillar will feed on. So anywhere in Delhi, if you find this big black butterfly, which is called the common Mormon butterfly, just stand and look for a curry patta tree. You will definitely find it because butterflies are very, very territorial. Like I said, they are not looking for flowers, nectar-rich flowers. They are looking for host plants or their mates. Once they have found their mate, they are only looking for host plants, suitable host plants to lay their eggs on. Very, very important part of their adult life cycle. Okay. Next, we have already discussed is the common lime butterfly, and common lime butterfly uses nimbu, even curry patta. It uses nimbu and lots of varieties of citrus. and Kari Patta, and you can see this big green caterpillar. This is what it looks like in its final stage, and a very easy to maintain plant in your garden. You'll If you plant the nimbu, you will definitely see common lime because they're quite common around Delhi. One of the biggest swallowtails here. The other one is called the common jay. Common jay uses false ashok, which is abundantly planted by all government agencies in Delhi. All your parks, all your streets will have this tree called the ashok tree. And you can see all three instars of the same butterfly. So this yellow, black, and green are different stages of the caterpillar's life. It takes these forms in different uh, as it grows from yellow to black to green. And here on the right, you can see the adult butterfly, a very beautiful butterfly. Was not present in Delhi, as historically was not present or recorded in Delhi, has come to Delhi with this plant. The more that we plant, more false ashok or ashoka that we plant, the more the population of common jay butterflies will increase in Delhi. And that is goes to show how dependent butterflies are on their host plant. And if we pay attention to planting their host plant, we will be doing a big service for butterfly conservation. The other the other butterfly here is the yellow orange tip. This is a quintessential Delhi butterfly, uh, common to Alavali ranges. Somewhere where your college is, you'll see a lot of these orange tips. Uh, the host plant for orange tips is this plant that you see here. Is called the Capparis separia, which is the caper bush. Again, Aravali specialist plant. You will see a lot of these creepers and old Vilayati kikar trees going up. And this tree is a keystone species for a whole variety of butterflies in Delhi. So having one such plant can your garden can host, if you have one such plant, your garden can host around 4 or 5 different species of butterflies. So it's a very effective plant for your butterfly habitat. Not just this, there are other caper varieties in Delhi. They are also quintessential Aravali species. So uh, very good host plants. This is what I was talking about. This is again another Capparis decidua, which is what we call kareel. This is again a host plant for white orange tip butterflies and a very beautiful tree to have in your garden, going disappearing from Delhi's landscape, and some concentrated effort is required on our part to try and save this tree from completely disappearing from Delhi. This tree is not just a host plant for butterflies. This is provides a lot of ecosystem services to the Aravali landscape, as well as the it's called teat. The fruit of the kareel is called teat, and people make achars out of it too. It's edible. This is a common gull butterfly. Like I said, Kanthari or the Capparis separia, which we already discussed, is a host plant for common gull also. So planting Capper species is a good idea. Again, Pioneer will also be one of the species which are hosted by Capparis species. And like I said, 4 to 5, if you plant one caper, 4 to 5 species can be covered very easily. Moving on to the Amalthas tree or Cassia fistula is a tree mentioned in the Mahabharat as the tree that was planted in Indraprastha. So Amalthas and Delhi share a very long relationship, history written in the Mahabharata. From time immemorial, Amaltas has been in Delhi. It's a native of Delhi, indicator of summer, arrival of summer in Delhi. As soon as you see the yellow flowers on a Amaltas, it is summertime in Delhi. It's a summer indicating flower. Keep a lookout from next year. So there are two species, common immigrant and mottled immigrant, which use Amalthus species, Amalthus tree as their host plant, and uh, these butterflies are small area migrants. They fly from lower hills, Himalayan hills, to the plains in search of their larval host plants. So this is a mottled immigrant. Again, the host plant is uh, Amalthus. Next is my favorite tree called the Pilu or Miswak tree, also known as the toothbrush tree. This is also a tree which is slowly disappearing from our landscape. At one point of time, there were a lot of Pilu trees in Delhi, but now slowly, because of the use it has a very high value in our religious ceremonies. It is also used as a toothbrush tree. It's called miswak. So it has a lot of value. The fruit is edible. That's why people have been cutting this tree for a very long time. And it takes a very, very long time to grow. It is, in fact, host for small salmon Arab as well as large salmon Arab butterflies. And I would urge you to please plant one pilu at least wherever you get a spot. This is a very common butterfly seen in Delhi called the common grass yellow. And this is the host plant is the touch me not plant. Wherever in Delhi you see the touch me not, you will see this yellow butterfly. Easily confused with other yellow butterflies. It takes a practiced eye to distinguish between the few other yellow butterflies seen in Delhi. But the most common one is always this common grass yellow. Next butterfly is the zebra blue butterfly. The host plant is the common blue flambago, which is found in most nurseries, or white flambago, which is a native plant common in Aravali hill range. Here you see this is the bud, the flower bud of this plant. You can see so many flowers in it. If you go closer to one of these flowers, you can see this view. And in this, if you see carefully here, there's a small caterpillar. And this is where the caterpillar stays, hiding from predators in plain sight. And this is the most common technique the caterpillars use to avoid predation. And eventually, this is what the butterfly will look like. This is called the zebra blue butterfly. Next is the dark grass blue. It's a very, very common butterfly, very, very small as my thumbnail. And it's not a very high flyer. It will fly about 6 inches above the ground and mostly stay at that height only. Choloi or amaranthus, which is a widely eaten weed found very commonly in Delhi. Wherever you will not manicure any green patch, there you will find profuse growth of amaranthus or choloi. And these plants host these small butterflies, and mostly wherever you will see amaranthus, you will see these small butterflies fluttering around all the time, all year round. Another common butterfly seen in our parks is the plains cupid butterfly. The host plant is the Cycas revolta, which is a very common ornamental plant in our gardens. The butterfly lays its egg on the fresh leaves, which are somewhere here inside the plant. The fresh leaf that is coming out, it lays its eggs on that. The caterpillar is this maroon colored caterpillar, and the most interesting thing here is that the caterpillar of plains cupid butterfly are tended by ants. The ants keep them safe from predators using their formic acid or other aggressive moves to ward off predators. It keeps the caterpillar safe while the caterpillar exudes a liquid from its behind, which ironically is called the honeydew. And this honeydew is used by ants as food source. So for protection, the ant provides, the caterpillar gives it food. This is a very, very interesting relationship seen in uh, some type of butterflies. Plains cupid is one of them, and the other one is a common silver line butterfly you see here. The host plant is inermi, which is a very, very common hedge plant in all our gardens. Wherever you see a hedge made next to a path or something, it will be inermi most of the time. And this inermi is a host plant for silver line. And this is the caterpillar you see here, the green caterpillar. And here also the caterpillars are tended by ants. So if you see ants near a inermi hedge, you have to be sure it is a sure sign that there are caterpillars for silver line butterflies there. So very interesting relationship between caterpillars and ants. Next butterfly is the red Piro butterfly. This butterfly uses Kalencho or Patthar Chatta as its host plant. It's one of the leaf mining butterflies. So the egg is laid on the leaf, whereas the caterpillar, once it comes out of the egg, will burrow itself inside of the leaf and spend its life eating from one end and pooping from the other end, and that is the whole caterpillar life is spent inside of the leaf succulent thick leaf of the succulent plant. Patthar chatta is also a native from this area, is also a very good medicinal plant. When the caterpillar wants to become a chrysalis, it will come out of the leaf and attach itself to a new surface, and this caterpillar will turn completely black before emergence, and after emergence it will leave this empty shell and become this beautiful butterfly. The next butterfly we have is the plain tiger butterfly, and the plain tiger butterfly is the most common butterfly in Delhi. This butterfly uses milkweed trees or milkweed shrub, which we call Calotropis digentia or Procera also, as their host plants. And they're very, very common plants found on roadsides, railway tracks, any degraded land. These plants will grow automatically. The special thing about plain tiger is that the plant that the caterpillar of plain tiger is feeding on is actually a plant which has alkaloids in it. Those alkaloids are imbibed by the caterpillar, and that makes the caterpillar distasteful. And when that caterpillar turns into a adult butterfly, that turns the adult butterfly also distasteful. This makes it so that other birds and reptiles do not eat the plain tiger butterfly. That is why it's the most common, as well as the most bold butterfly will not be afraid to fly close to human beings or any animal, because it is sure that most animals will not prefer to eat it because of its distaste or bad taste that it has. This is called a striped tiger, and the host plant for striped tigers is blood flower. Again, a very common plant in our gardens. The striped tiger uses this plant to lay its eggs on, and very, very common butterfly as well as the plant. The next is the passion flower vine, which is a very, very good vine to have in your home garden. Very hardy, very tough to kill. It's a host plant for the tawny coster butterfly, and you can see it's got these brilliant flowers. So even if you don't get the tawny coster butterfly, it is a very good addition to your home garden, this passion flower vine. Next is the painted lady. Painted lady is called the globetrotter, as in it is a butterfly known to migrate globally. It is found in all the continents apart from South America and Antarctica, and it has also been recorded over the Atlantic Ocean. It's a very strong flyer, and it can fly long distances, has coat button, this gregarious flowers found in most dry regions of India, and it is an invasive plant here, so it has come from somewhere else. Most areas of the world you can find this coat button, and this is what the painted lady uses to lay its eggs on. And you will see them migrating in only ones and twos. They don't do mass migrations like other butterflies, other well-known butterflies that do migration, but they are the most widely distributed and known to be global migrators, very strong flyers. Next group of butterflies are called the pansy butterflies. Here is a lemon pansy butterfly, and in a lemon pansy butterfly, this is also a very common butterfly of Delhi. It uses a plant called Pila Vajradanti, the of the Vajradanti fame, uh, one we make to use toothpaste. So it's a medicinal plant again, Vajradanti, and again a very hardy plant, profusely flowering in the winter. So if you plant it, your winters you'll have a lot of yellow flowers continuously flowering, but it's not the flowers that we want, it's the leaves that we want, because the pansy butterflies like lemon pansy will use its leaves to become fat. The caterpillar will use its leaves to become fat, store energy, and become an adult butterfly. Same here for the yellow pansy. We just were looking at the lemon pansy. This is the yellow pansy butterfly, and it uses the same Pila Vajradanti porcupine flower as its host plant. Next butterfly is castor, common castor butterfly. Very simple. Common castor butterfly can be seen on castor. Caterpillar of common castor butterfly can be seen on castor plants. Castor plants in Delhi are very common. In all the nalas and neglected areas, you will find this plant growing very happily. It will grow in most types of soil, in your garden, in your balcony, in your pots. And the place to look for the caterpillar is on the veins of the leaves. This is what the caterpillar uses to hide the veins. It has the shape of the veins, and it will just stand on it, so it becomes not visible. Next butterfly is common crow butterfly. This is also a widely seen butterfly in Delhi, and the host plant for this is Karonda. Karonda is also a fruiting shrub with these white flowers, again native to Aravali region, and a very easy plant to find in the nurseries. Then there is the common evening brown. Common evening brown is a butterfly which will use a variety of grasses for laying its eggs on, and the caterpillar will survive on these grasses itself. And these grasses, like I said, the wild patch, your aim, so little studies have been done on butterfly and their relationship with plants that we don't know all the host plants also. So if we have local wild grasses growing, it will not just attract common evening browns, but will also attract other butterflies which depend on these grasses. So planting grasses is a very important element. I'm not talking about the manicured grass that you have in your lawns or football field or something. You need native grasses for these butterflies. One of them is this with that, I would like to end. I would like to thank my team, Dr. Jayanta Chatterjee, Geeta, Shantanu, Rajendra, Ishtiaq, and Lakhan. And I would like to thank all of the students for their participation. Here you can find my email ID and my phone number if you would have any questions about butterflies, about setting up a butterfly garden, or if you need some plants, I can be of some assistance, and I would be happy and glad to help any of you with any future questions you have. I would open it up at this point of time for questions from the audience. Ma'am, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a wonderful session. So, major takeaways of this session would be we all know that watching butterflies is a joyful, beautiful, and stress releasing exercise. And sometimes now we come to know that sometimes sweating does wonders too. It attracts butterflies. So, in this particular session, we came to know about the life cycle of the butterflies, the spaces that it needs, and food that it eats, the food requirements, and the like aesthetic functions. There are ecological roles of butterflies also, including the food, the pollinating part, and they act as ecological indicators also. And the fact that the survival rate of butterflies is very, very less under natural conditions, and we are these days we entirely it is the man-made spaces everywhere, right? So the of course it is leading to the decline of the butterflies. And then of course there are different varieties of plants which are commonly found plants, most of them. And now we are aware of these plants, and we'll start looking for these plants, growing them, and of course we'll start observing them also. Now I would request, we have our students with us, so I would request Mukesh Das to ask questions from sir.
Thank you, ma'am. So my question is, how difficult is it to aware people about the importance of conservation of butterflies and insects? Because people tend to discard any idea that does not bring materialistic gain to them.
Yes, that's an excellent question, Mukesh. The first part of the question, I'll take it as two parts. To get people interested in insects is very, very tough. But the insects hold such utility for us, not just for the survival of our ecosystem, but you won't believe it. Now, scientists are working with bees to find bombs. So if their DRDO has a project where bees are being trained to sniff bombs, so they will be our minesweepers. Same with termites. People are studying termites and what they eat to figure out the mineral content of for gold and zinc inside your site. So you leave termites to eat your some soil of your site, and you sample what they are eating to figure out uh, what the soil has. So insects have a lot of utility, but very, very tough to get into insects for two reasons. One, most people have this prejudice against insects that they are dangerous or they are creepy, stuff like that. It's a cultural prejudice that we have. Second, there are compared to the diversity that there is very little resource to even if you want to find out, it's very easy to find out about the tiger or birds. They are very popular subjects. Insect is not such a popular subject, but butterflies is a gateway to insects, and that is why we promote. I work with insects and not just butterflies, but butterflies is a tool we use to get people interested in insects. It's a very, very, for time immemorial, people have been interested in butterflies, in the metamorphosis and how it changes. There are so many stories about the change of a butterfly. There's so many quotes about what it means to change from a butterfly to caterpillar. We are culturally attached to butterflies for a very, very long time. let me tell you another interesting thing. Butterflies and moths are the same thing. If there are 10 types of moths in the world, butterfly is one of those 10. But because butterflies fly in the day and we know much more about them, we have just separated them. In science, there is no distinction. We say that there are butterflies that fly in the day and moths fly in the night. That's not true. There are moths that fly in the day and there are butterflies that fly in the night. If you say butterflies sit with their wings open and moths sit with their wings closed, you'll find exceptions for everything in moths. If there are more than 150,000 varieties of moths. So we can't even species of moths. So we don't even know. So because we don't know moths, we are concentrating on butterflies. Butterflies have become a huge thing, and it gives us educators an opportunity to use the butterfly as as a keystone species or a mascot to further talk about insects, because insects are facing a huge uh, drastic population decline, and it's high time we should start talking about it.
Thank you, sir.
We call it the insect Armageddon.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would request Drishti for the question.
Good morning, everyone. So my question is, sir, how can I keep butterfly traps safe from monkeys?
Butterfly traps?
How can I keep butterfly traps away from monkeys?
What are butterfly traps? What are
Probably,
butterfly traps?
probably she may be referring to the caterpillars which are hiding in the leaves. Maybe those spaces,
Yes.
those hidden spaces.
Okay. So let me rephrase the question. If you have a butterfly habitat at your home and you see a lot of caterpillars, how do you hide them from the monkeys?
Yes, sir.
You know human beings, right? Monkeys are like our cousins. So very, very hard to hide anything from monkey. Monkey will find it. The only thing that you can do is you can bring the caterpillar in, use a box, and in that box puncture some holes, not very big holes, so that the caterpillar can breathe and none of the parasites can come in. So it doesn't have to be very big, just a few holes. And every day take a few leaves of the host plant and provide it to the caterpillar to eat. Caterpillar will happily stay in a box. It's the best way to record such videos and get the whole life cycle photographs, the whole life cycle. The best way is to bring these caterpillar in to study.
Okay, so
And
by merely
that's
putting those leaves in a cardboard box with some holes punctured on it, so we can grow the caterpillars and see the entire life
plastic box.
cycle.
Yes,
Plastic
plastic box.
box.
Yes. So
Okay, okay.
you take the you find a caterpillar on a plant. Even if you
Yeah,
don't know the caterpillar, you know that this is the host plant. Otherwise, the caterpillar won't be there. Caterpillar is
right.
not traveling far away. It's usually
Yeah,
on its host plant. So even if you
yeah.
don't know the caterpillar, you know the host plant is this only. So you take the caterpillar, put it in a box. The best way to do it would be put a sheet also below it, because the caterpillar eats a lot and poops a lot. So you keep a sheet at the bottom, feed it leaves. Just keep some fresh leaves every day. It will eat the leaves, poop, and you just take the sheet and clean the poop. The poop is a good compost or manure, and the whole life cycle can be seen. It will change from caterpillar to chrysalis inside the box, from chrysalis to this thing, the adult inside the box. So even if sometimes you don't have the plant very close to you and you want to keep the leaf fresh for a longer time, because the caterpillar will not eat dead leaf or brown leaf or stale leaf or whatever, dried leaf. Sorry. So for that, what you can do is what we do with flowers. I take a small foil, put a piece of cotton in it, put a few drops of water, and put the stem of the leaf cutting that I have in that and put it there. It keeps the leaves fresher for a longer time. Yeah, but monkeys are very tough to. Yeah, even birds. I've seen birds sitting. So if I in my balcony, if I see a red-vented bulbul near a host plant, I immediately the red-vented bulbul has found a caterpillar. I've seen birds wait for the caterpillar to grow bigger because the caterpillar can't go anywhere. So once the
Yeah.
myna or the red-vented bulbul has day,
I think there is some connection issue. Yeah. Geeta ma'am. So yes, these are there are few things which we have learned. So we can just keep noting down, and this rainy season, let there be more and more plants in our lives, more greenery in our lives, and of course in a more vigilant manner this time. And I think sir will join us back. There must have been some issue at his place.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Audible now, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, it's okay now. So we have one more question from Arzu.
okay.
Arzu, yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. My
Good
question is
afternoon.
that is there any resource to find out the complete range of butterfly distribution throughout the world?
Source to find out complete distribution of butterflies throughout the world.
Butterflies throughout the world, yes, sir.
They're national depositories in the sense that you can, for India, you can find out from Butterflies of India. There's a website called Butterflies of India. So every country, most of the countries have their own this thing. There's no global forum as of now. Lots of people are trying to build this forum. iNaturalist is one place where you can do it, but the information is not complete right now. iNaturalist is the only global platform at this point.
Mukesh, do you have any other question?
So I have few questions from other participants, and the questions, one question that I have is from Divyan Sahuja from Industrial Engineering, and his question is there any way to grow caterpillars at home?
Grow caterpillars?
Yeah, is there any way to like we can have a plant, and then if you find a caterpillar in the park, we put it into our home and let them grow there. It's safer than
Yeah.
in the park where you said birds and other things attack.
Yeah, so you can do it in a plastic box, like I just explained, that you can use a plastic box, puncture some holes in it, and keep the caterpillar in it. The only thing is that you have to clean the poop and provide it with fresh leaves every day. Keep the box clean and provide it with fresh leaves every day. It's very, very easy to do.
Sir, there is another question from Karan from Applied Science Department, and his question
Okay.
is: conservationists have one serious issue to tackle, and that is overcrowding. How can human and butterflies live together in nature?
Yeah, as in, I get his point that overcrowding, population growth is a problem for not just butterflies, for all sorts of wildlife, for mostly for habitats. But butterflies have been living with humans for a very, very long time. There are more than 102 species of butterflies found in a place like Delhi. So, yeah, but
Overcrowding or the pollution may be a big problem. Cutting of trees and plant, not growing plants, devegetating the area, maybe big issues regarding decline of butterflies, maybe.
so I get the student's idea. The idea is overcrowding is leading to
Yeah,
habitat destruction. So
destruction, true.
habitat destruction has pollution in it, has the
Yeah.
deforestation, linear projects. Linear infrastructure is the biggest, if you ask me. We never think about it, but linear infrastructure is the biggest enemy of wildlife in, at least in our country at this moment. So linear infrastructures include highways, high-speed railways, all these. A lot of habitat, prime habitat, is being destroyed as we speak.
So there
Millions
is
of
one
millions
last
of.
question from
Please.
Umang from Law Department, and his question is: is there any ban on collection of butterflies by individual or community? The endangered butterfly species.
Yes, yes. So basically, there is India's Prime Wildlife Protection Act uh, prohibits trade of certain scheduled species. So butterflies also fall into those schedule 1 and 2, and those butterflies, it's prohibited to trade in them.
Thank you, sir.
So Wildlife Protection Act of prohibits sale and trade of such endangered. We don't call them endangered. Schedule 1, Schedule 2 animals.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. One question: if we ever think of making a butterfly garden, so is there any specific size or minimum size requirement, or minimum number of plants or type varieties of plants?
No,
No. Okay.
I started my home garden with 2 plants.
Okay. Okay.
The
So there
thing that
has
I said in the beginning, it's directly related. Plant diversity is directly related to
to the
butterfly
type
diversity. So
diversity.
So yes, yes. So if you have a lot of plants and a lot of area, you will get a lot of variety of butterflies and a lot of butterflies. But if you have 2 plants, you will still get butterflies.
Okay. And then there has to be some wild plants also, so that natural
Just a wild
and
patch. Yeah, natural
wild
wild patch.
patch,
If you
natural
Yeah, if
wild patch.
you don't have to plant anything, just let it grow.
Yeah.
That's the best
Yeah.
thing you can do for a butterfly habitat actually. If you just let a corner grow, all the wild things will come there on their own. The problem with us is, one, we use a lot of, all our parks and gardens will have a lot of butterflies. The only reason they don't have them is two reasons. One, we use a lot of insecticides and pesticides. And second, we have this habit of equating clean Delhi to green Delhi. Green is not clean. So what we do is our malis are sweeping gardens for no reason. That's just destruction of so many eggs and so many other insects. Just sweeping gardens and mowing lawns and taking leaves away. All that is not required. So just a change in our mindset of how a garden looks will also help these butterflies grow a long way. Like give you an example of the lockdown. In the lockdown, whole of my colony had because none of the Malis were coming and doing their Mali business. all over there was amaranthus growing everywhere. Even on the concrete footpath, the amaranthus finds its way, and you could see butterflies everywhere. Suddenly one day, uh, there were no butterflies, and not just to me, but it was visible to my sister, to everybody in my family could see that there are no butterflies, and they asked me, and I said they've just taken they today the Malis came and they've taken away all the amaranthus, so they're gone.
Yeah.
So
The same thing happened. Please continue. The same thing happened in our green belt also when the Malis were not
exactly,
coming. So there were a lot of litter, leaves
yes,
on the ground. So we could see
yes,
so many insects and butterflies also. But now since they have
yes,
started coming, so now everything is clean and all the everything is clean.
yes. That
So
is the
yeah,
problem. So
same. Yeah,
we have somehow equated clean and green together, which
green.
should not be.
Yeah,
Wild is never clean and is never dirty, as in
yeah.
it's never dirty to be cleaned. But if we keep, these hard pruning methods, de-weeding, changing soil profile every season, it leads to destruction of insect life. So we should highly avoid this. And this is directly related to not just butterflies. People have been, even, ma'am, you would know, and all the students who know that the state bird of Delhi is the house sparrow. And people say house sparrows are disappearing. Actually, if you ask ornithologists, they will tell you no, that's not the case. House sparrows are only disappearing, their population is only declining in cities. And one of the biggest factors for that is that we are using pesticides and insecticides and damaging the insect life so much that the adult sparrow needs these caterpillars and these earthworms, these insects to feed to its chick. If there is no food for the chick, then the sparrow will not breed there. So we are not just killing these butterflies, we are also affecting the population of sparrows around us. So everything in nature is connected, and we harm one thing, it has a cascading effect going forward or going backward. So we have to really, really think about the effect that we have.
This is how the food chains and food linkages are working. These are the
Yes,
indirect effects. Yeah. After this wonderful session, a big thank you, Sohail sir, for this session and of course patiently handling our queries. And big thank you to
my
the
pleasure.
entire BNHS team and Ahmed sir also because he's been supporting us in different
Yes,
different ways. He's the connecting link for us, and of course our co-panelist Dr. Babita for being there, and the backbone of the entire event, Professor Geeta, uh, who is managing the entire thing, and of course our students. Without their support, it is not these sessions are not possible. The management and our participants, our student force, and our rest of the participants, a big thank you for joining in. Please stay tuned. We'll be back with more sessions on such issues, and we'll be definitely um, uh, contacting and disturbing Sohail sir again and again. And
please
this
do.
season, and this season, let there be more and more of plants and greenery and more butterflies in our lives. Thank you. A
Yes, I
big
hope
thank
so.
you to everyone. Thank you, sir. Thank
Thank you, students. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.